Hello, this is Yaro Starak, and welcome to an interview. Today on the line, I have Neil Patel, and I'm really looking forward to doing this one in particular because, wow, Neil has quite a, well, almost like a history of success. Neil, I don't know if you have any failures in your in your background. I'm sure you do. Everyone seems to. But thank you for joining me on the call today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
So I'd like to go back in time and see where you came from. So where are you originally from?
Sure. So I was born in London, England. And when I was like around 1 or 2 years old, my parents moved to Orange County, California. Not the, version you see on TV, but there's a much more normal, poorer part, which is called North Orange County, more away from the water. And that's where I grew up. Okay.
So you don't have a British accent.
I don't have a British accent, sadly, right? Wish I had one, but
yeah, I'm a big fan of that. So you do you have an OC accent? Would that be right?
Yeah, California accent, or just I would say West Coast accent.
Okay. So growing up in California, did you have an entrepreneurial experience early on, or were you following a normal career path, going to college and so forth?
I did end up going to college and doing all those basic things that most people do. But I did start off with an entrepreneurial background. Okay. And I started because my mom has been an entrepreneur for ages with her own little daycare business. And from her and, other people in my family, I learned quite a bit over the years. From there, I pretty much decided to start my own business in high school and started off selling, CDs and DVDs and cable TV boxes so that way people can watch more channels than they technically were paying for. From there, expand into many other things. But all my first businesses were very tiny. My first real business was an internet site, and that actually failed miserably.
Okay, well let's put a timestamp on this. So you went to school in Orange County. What degree did you start, and where did you go?
Sure. So my degree was in marketing. I went to California State University of Fullerton.
Okay. When was this? Like, what year?
A while ago.
Am I dating you?
10 years ago. I would say 9 years ago.
Okay.
So you're looking at roughly like 2003 is when I pretty much started college.
Okay. All right. So you would have graduated sort of mid-2000.
That's correct.
Okay, and your mom's your primary inspiration. Now, as I was saying to you just before we started to record the call, I actually know you, well, I've seen your name everywhere, but one of the things that keeps coming out in my head is the fact that you have an article on shoemoney.com many years ago about a platinum, was it Visa card or MasterCard? I don't even know what it was, or American Express?
Yeah, so it was a Centurion American Express credit card. It's all the same thing, though. There's no difference. Credit card is a credit card. It's just one that's a bit more exclusive. They claim you get all these perks, but at the end of the day, they're all useless.
Right. What I thought was impressive, though, is you have to, like the balance of something, you get a $100,000 limit. Is that what? I can't even remember. It's a while ago now when I read this.
Yeah, there's really no limit. They're not really like credit cards. They're more like debit cards. So whatever you spend in the month, you have to pay off.
Right. Okay. So
the limit is based on your spending history and all that. Supposed rumor is you have to spend $240,000 or $250,000 a year to qualify. I ended up finding out from a source inside American Express recently. Actually, you only had to spend $150,000 to qualify. So it's not a bad card overall, but it's not really financially worth it.
Right.
Because the first year fees for like one person is well over $5,000, right? It's like $6,000-$7,000 for the first year for a credit card. It's not really worth paying that.
Right. So it's more like if you want the status to say that I've got this very exclusive credit card.
That's correct. Like I don't have it anymore, right? And my current American Express spend is like around $130,000 a month.
Right.
So it's like, why get a credit card you have to pay money for? And when there's other credit cards that actually give you cash back. And when you're spending cash, that's get my 2% cash back every month.
Right. Now, I remember when Shoe Money, Jeremy, wrote that article. I really haven't set the scene here for those who don't know you. I kind of assume that everyone's heard your name before, but maybe I should set the scene a little bit. I think the other place that I first came across you would have been possibly Crazy Egg, and maybe your blog Quick Sprout as well. And you seem to have a name as a traffic generator. Like that's possibly the strongest personal brand, or certainly everything what you do seems to be around the traffic and conversion sort of space. Is that correct?
That is. If you look at all my businesses, all the ones that at least are somewhat successful,
right, they've
revolved around the traffic space, right? My first one was an internet marketing agency. That one did well, or my first successful one. Okay. That was traffic related. My second one was Crazy Egg. My third one which is the current one, Kissmetrics.
Okay. Well, let's just jump back on the timeline, and there's a few businesses to get to. So we're graduating in mid-2000, and you said around that time you had your first internet failure. Is that correct?
So I had my first internet failure in high school around 16 years old.
Okay, tell us about it.
My first one was called Advice Monkey. So you're based out of Australia, correct?
That's right.
Now, I don't know if you guys have monster.com there or monster.com.au.
We did. It didn't really take off, but we did have it. They attempted to come into our market.
There you go. So it's huge in the U.S. And when I was like around 16 years old or 15, I forgot the exact age, I wanted to get a really high-paying job. So I went on Monster, tried to find one. I couldn't because they all required college degrees and I was too young. But the one thing I did notice was on the bottom of the site, there was a stock symbol. I clicked it, and I noticed they were worth billions of dollars, right? So I was like, crap, if I end up creating a website that's just like this, if it does all the same stuff, if I can make 1% of what they make, I'll be a rich kid. So I went out there, found someone to create it, and it failed miserably. And there's a few main reasons it failed. The first one was, when you pop up a website, you got to figure out how to get traffic to it. I assume that when you pop up a website, everyone already comes to your website, right? Like it just automatically gets popular, which never really happens. 2, to make money online, you have to be able to accept credit cards. I had no way of accepting credit cards on my website. And at this time, there wasn't too many popular payment processors. You know, PayPal is widely known now, Authorize.net, and there were payment processors online. It was just as a 15, 16-year-old or however old I was at that time, I didn't know how to do those things.
And what was your plan? Like, you just wanted to copy monster.com?
I did, and the biggest mistake I made there was I didn't try to solve a unique problem, right? I just tried to create another Me Too company, which wasn't solving a pain in the marketplace, which is probably the main reason why the company failed.
Okay, so how long was that experiment? And I'm assuming you did it all yourself.
So I paid someone, I don't know, my guess is I spent less than $20,000 on the whole business. I paid someone, $5-10 grand to build it. I would say like around 5. And that money was made by selling like CDs and stuff in high school and car parts.
Okay. Self-funded?
The rest was spent by marketing. So I didn't have much more money than that. So I also worked a 9-to-5 job at a theme park here, picking up trash and cleaning restrooms. I used that money to pay marketing firms to build more traffic to the site. And none of them really did a good job. After a while, I actually got fed up paying these people because I was getting no results. And I had to learn internet marketing myself because I didn't have any more money.
Okay, so this business was the trigger to almost start your entire career in the traffic and generation path.
Bingo.
Okay.
And I was successful at getting that site traffic. We ranked for like job search, tech jobs, all these specific keywords on Google. Don't get me wrong, I still didn't make money from the business, but I got the traffic part down. And since then, been pretty decent at generating traffic. I've always sucked at monetization, but I've been pretty good at generating traffic.
Okay, so this is a great point in your life for you to explain, especially in your early days, how you got good at generating traffic. Like, what did you learn in particular for this job, Monster Clone website that you could take forward? Was it all SEO related?
It was 100% SEO related, right? Because there was really no Twitter at the time. Facebook wasn't around. What I ended up learning was if you want to get good rankings on the search engines, because search engines were still popular back then, right? You have to get a lot of sites linking to you. And I got really good at figuring out how to get other websites to link to me. So I'd hit up webmasters, manually emailing them, or I'd start cold calling websites with high page rank and convince them and do deals. I'm like, I'll link to you if you link back, right? And I'm not saying those tactics work now, but back then they worked really great.
Okay, so how did this all, leave you in the sense that you stopped doing the the monster clone and move on to something else?
Well, I got fed up with that business after a while, right? Because you're getting all this traffic and you're just like, crap, I'm not making any money. And even if I figured out a way to accept credit cards online, probably still wouldn't have made money because I didn't really have too many job listings and I didn't have people paying me to post a job, right? You need a ton of job searchers, and the job searchers aren't going to keep on coming back to your site if you don't have the job listings. And if you don't have enough job listings and job searchers, you're not going to get people who are willing to pay to post the listing.
Monster should have hired you to drive traffic to their site.
There you go. I would have done pretty well for them. But yeah, I got fed up over a while, and I decided, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to go to college like every other normal kid and get a degree. So what I started doing was, while I was in high school, I started taking nighttime college classes at a community college so I can finish college in 2 to 3 years instead of 4 years like most kids. And my first class was on speech, and I gave a speech about how search engines work as one of my first speeches. One of the guys in the room was a sales rep at a power supply manufacturing business. And that guy, he said, hey, we're looking for someone to build up our traffic. I work for this company called LPAC Electronics, and we provide like power supplies to heart resuscitators and Boeing airplanes and random things like that, right? So it's like an unheard of company, but they print cash, and they're huge because they provide power supplies to most electrical things that we see in this world. So the guy introduced me to someone in marketing over there, and they hired me, and my first gig there was like $3,000 or $3,500 a month. I forgot what the exact amount was, but I thought it was, a home run. I was like, wow, I'm getting paid all this much just for like 10 hours a month, right? So I was like ecstatic, especially for a young kid who was like 16, 17 at this time. Okay, but little did I know, I was making them a lot more money than they were paying me.
Right. So this is before you just when you started college, right? So this is early days of 2000s. You're 16, 17, and you get your first consulting client pretty much because you do a presentation for a class.
That's correct.
Okay, so and then you figure out that they're making a lot more money than they're paying you. Is that? Yeah,
I was the internet leads, and I was only one doing internet work. Whereas bringing in 51% of their leads that resulted in revenue, and they're doing over $50 million in revenue a year.
Wow! So you were basically responsible for like 25 million.
Something like that. I don't know.
Not completely responsible, but at least partially responsible.
That's correct, right? Because someone's also produced the product, sell it to them, right? Because just because the lead comes in doesn't mean they're going to pay you unless the sales guy goes and closes
the lead. Okay, so did this open up a new idea that you're thinking maybe I should be charging more or something else?
Not even, because what ended up happening is the guy who owned that company, his son owned an ad agency in Los Angeles. So he introduced me to his son, and his son, within a few months, gave me more business, and I was like doing $20,000 a month in business while I was in high school, because from the owner's kid, and so forth and so on, right? It all started adding up, and his friends, they all started paying me.
Okay, Neil. Now I'm curious here. There's a lot of people go out there trying to start a consultant firm, even in the time frame you did it, and they're much older than you were at the time. Why were you good at getting traffic for all these different types of businesses? Like, what's the secret sauce there?
My secret sauce was I was just busting my butt much more than most other guys out there. They were charging premium amounts, and they were giving you fancy presentations and giving you all these fancy reports instead of focusing that time and energy on the results. This was my first gig. I didn't know how to make these fancy presentations, do sales pitches, or any of that. All I knew how to do was do technical work, and I focused 100% of my time on providing results. So I was more scrappier on getting links. I was better at doing on-page changes and stuff like that. I was much more up to date with the technology and learning what changes are happening algorithmically to the search engines versus spending my time getting business. Now, granted, customers don't pay you forever. Sooner or later, you get churn, and if you don't focus on sales and growing your business, you're not going to keep on growing the revenue. But I didn't know any of that. All I was focusing on is just doing the work, which is why the clients I had at that time were really happy.
So would it be safe to say much of your work was keyword research, on-page optimization, and generating links to these sites?
That's correct. And I would say link building was 80+% of it.
Right.
And I was just more scrappier and better at getting links than most people out there.
Okay. I'd love to maybe just take 5 minutes now because everyone will want to know this. And I don't want to make this an SEO lesson interview. I'd much rather hear your entire story. But just in 5 minutes and make it current, perhaps, is the best way to talk about this. Since link building is always the number one thing that people have to get done for SEO, could you just give us what do you do nowadays for your link building, either advice or you're actually doing for your clients? Like, what works?
Sure. So a few things still work. Manual outreach has always worked. If you go and find out who links to your competitors, because you can do backward link checks on them, you can actually go out to every single one of those sites and manually hit them up. You can even do some fun stuff to automate it, in which once you get a link list of all the people who link to your competition, you can put up all those URLs on something like, what's that service? It's by Amazon, like that crowdsourcing. I totally forgot the name of it. It's really popular. But there's like programs like, not Elance.
You mean?
You pay like a penny per record. I forgot what it was. But nonetheless, there's sites out there in which you can say, hey, for every email address you give me, or like you can give them any task and you tell them how much you're willing to pay for it. So I would go on this Amazon service, and I should know the name.
We should look it up.
That's right. And I would pay them like a penny. So I'd give them a list of like 10,000 websites. And when I would give them a list of the 10,000 websites, I would say, I'll give you a penny for every email you get me.
Okay.
So what I would do was, once I got those record lists, and I actually got it now, it's Mechanical Turk.
Oh,
so once I got those record lists from Mechanical Turk, you either have two options. One is you can create a template and start automatically emailing out all those 10,000 or 100,000 people and try to see if they link back with a generic template. What I typically do is go the other route of doing a custom route and have my guys here, who I'd pay, minimum wage or whatever it may be, start manually emailing out these people one by one and try to convince them to link back. So that's one strategy. Another strategy I use these days is social media. And a great way to use social media is like you can use programs like TweetAdder to build up your Twitter account. You can build up your Facebook account manually, right? There's a lot of articles that talk about that. Easy way is, start adding some friends or all the people that you want to follow or they're influential and start, participate in the community and so forth and so on. But building up your social profiles, and then when you write content and you tweet about it, share it on Facebook and so forth and so on, you're going to get more traffic. The more traffic you get, the more links you're going to get, right? Because one of those people are more likely to now go, hey, I should link to this because this is a great article. Mm-hmm. Another thing I do is viral bait, and what I mean by this is like infographics, good video content, whatever you want to do, things that are so attractive that people just want to link to. So we used to crank out infographics, every week on the Kissmetrics blog, and that's, one of our big secrets of building up that blog audience. Crank them out, push them out through the social web, and link. Mm-hmm. Right? We would get links back because of the embed codes. Another thing that we ended up doing that worked out really well is guest blogging. So we would go out there, find all the blogs that would write on topics related to ours, and we would hit them up and offer them a guest blog post. And the key with that is when you hit them up, already give them specific titles and posts that they would like to accept based off of their old content, right? Mm-hmm. Within that blog, you can get a link back through the bio, or you can add links to your own site, right? So those are some of the ways we've link built it over time. You can also get into buying links and stuff like that if you want to spending money, and there's a lot of places like sponsor reviews or Blogvertise. There's areas where you can find guest blog posts really easily, myblogguest.com. So there's a ton of services out there, and there's a ton of ways to get links. The real key to building links is actually just creating a good product or service or writing good content, which is what most people neglect these days, and they try to just go the route of, hey, let's just pay someone to build links versus spending that time and effort and energy onto building something good. Because if you build something good, you can pay a PR firm, and I pay like this company called PRServe, for every press release they get me. So if they get me on TechCrunch, it costs me $750. That's the PR firm's, cost. If they get me on Huffington Post, $750. If you have a great product or service, these guys are more willing to write on you. If you don't, you're not going to get written up.
Now they pay on performance too.
That's correct, and
right.
you're not paying for a link, but you're getting a link in essence, because no one really does a press, or blogs about you. That's a big magazine or online journal without really linking to your site.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well that's a nice little segue. some current SEO or link building advice. I think that sounds like the tried and true methods that have been working for a while now, and you're obviously still doing all those things. So that's what you do for a lot of your clients, I presume.
That's correct. I don't really have too many clients these days.
Right.
I hate doing consulting. I'll be upfront with that, but yeah, it still works, and I still have a few clients, because there's always those big corporations that can just pay you, and if you don't want to work for them, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So let's go back to the story then. So you knew your link building techniques back then, and you practiced them like crazy and better than most people did. So you were able to generate a lot of search traffic for, first of all, the battery company, and then the battery company's son's advertising agency. Did you say? Was that what it was?
Yeah, his clients, because he worked with Blue Cross and Countrywide, which is now owned by Bank of America here in the U.S. So he worked with a lot of large corporations. So what we pretty much did was take everything that we were doing for the electronic company and do it for the owner's son's client list.
Okay, so by now you're making some probably a couple of six-figure incomes there, way more than most people would be at. How old are you? Like 19? Something like that?
16, 17, 18 at the latest.
Right. So what do you do with all that money at 18?
I reinvested it back into the business. So technically I wasn't making $1 in my own pocket.
Okay, what were you reinvesting it for? Like staff or
the business? Yeah, staff. I figured out how to do sales, so I'd figure out who's spending money on Google pay-per-click and do rough estimates on how much it costs, and I'd just go through specific keyword lists, Google them, and call every single one in the top 100 that was paying for ads for that keyword. And I'd just go page by page until I saw a new ad and keep on clicking through, call, find them in the marketing department, and sell them on SEO services. So I kept on reinvesting in the business, expanded the client list, started speaking at conferences, invested money into a better website, a blog, so forth, so on, to really grow the agency's brand. And did that for a few years. And after a while, realized that it wasn't the funnest thing to do, but nonetheless, I did it for a while, and that's when I started transitioning into software.
Okay, so I guess the real question is why. It sounds like you would have had staff doing most of the jobs that you didn't like in your consultancy firm. Is that right?
That's correct. What most people don't know about SEO agencies or internet marketing agencies, clients don't stay forever. It's a high churn business, and it's hard to prevent a lot of the churn. Because in many cases, you only get 6 month or year contracts, and people don't stay with you for 3, 4, 5 years like they do with software companies.
Okay, so the high churn is just because they don't need ongoing services. Once you've got the rankings, they leave.
A lot of different reasons. It's not always that. That could be one. And they feel internally they don't need to keep on spending money to maintain those rankings, even though eventually they will drop if you don't. And the other big reason is like budget cuts, or companies want to try new things, or companies feel that, hey, we can get a higher ROI if we try something else, or hey, let's bring this on internally because we can do it for 1/10 of the cost and it'll be easy, right? And then in many cases they'll learn that it doesn't always work that way, but nonetheless it's a high churn business.
Okay.
So
software
churn is someone can stay with you for a year or 2 years, but most clients won't stay with you for that long, right? You typically have 6 month to 1 year contracts, and it just doesn't pan out the lifetime value of a customer like it would in a software business, which has much better margins, and the customers stay for 3-4 years.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you obviously wanted a new challenge as well. It's probably safe to say, right?
Yeah, I was getting bored with it. I was frustrated, right? Because I would continually have to do sales, and I hated sales instead of doing the actual work because I had no time to do the work. So I actually started, me and my co-founder of that marketing agency started creating a software company. And the software company wasn't created because we wanted to get into software. It was more so we kept on seeing a problem. For every client that we were managing and working with, we were driving them good traffic, but they were like, hey, we're getting all this traffic, but how does this traffic relate into more sales? Sure, you can track your conversion rates, but they didn't get how those visitors actually engaged on their website and what was causing them to leave, buy, all those types of things. So what we pretty much did was we created Crazy Egg. And Crazy Egg at that point was a solution that helps you visually understand how people engage and interact with your website.
Okay, so Crazy Egg is sort of like a heat map service. I think some of our listeners will have heard of it. Before maybe you talk about how Crazy Egg went, or at least I'd like to jump into the start of this, because I'm actually doing a software startup now, and I know how challenging it is to get bug-free software or functional software out there and keep building on features at the same time as manage hiring the developers to do it and keep cash flow or getting startup capital, whatever it is, to keep everything running. Can you tell us how did Crazy Egg go in that startup phase?
Yeah, so me and my co-founder were self-funding it because it was really tough on getting it out there and making it money, right? Mm-hmm. Took us a while to launch it, 6+ months. When we launched it, we had an email list of over 20,000 people because I realized that, hey, most of the people who are interested in this product when I showed it to them were designers. So I was like, let me go to all the CSS gallery websites, which back then were really popular, and I bought an ad on every single one of it, created a squeeze page, and just collected like 20,000 emails.
Now, who are you having develop it, though? Did you obviously, you're not a software developer yourself, or was your partner?
We actually outsourced it.
Okay.
And we went through 2 or 3 before we actually found a software developer who completed it, and it actually worked.
Okay. Was that like overseas for you or locally?
All local in the U.S.
Okay. Because I'm assuming you had to keep maintaining the software too, so you would have had to have had an ongoing relationship with your developer.
That's correct. So
okay.
We did that for a while, and when we launched it, we got a ton of press from like TechCrunch, Mashable, tons of sites out there. We thought we would kill it financially. First month, we really did a few $1,000 in revenue.
How come?
Just we realized everyone was signing up for the free plan and they weren't upgrading into paid. We didn't know how to upsell people really well back then. We do now. But, if you look at it, it took us, by the end of the year, we weren't even at $30,000 a month in recurring income.
Right. So you considered that not successful?
It was not successful. We had a buyout offer, I think, for around $6 million back then, too, when we put $100,000 of our own money in, or 200.
And you decided to say no?
Yeah, it obviously was a no. And in total, we probably put $500,000 into the company because over the months, out of all those years for running it, it wasn't breaking even, right? So someone had to keep on feeding more money into it.
Now, you must have had a lot of free users then. Like,
ton, over 6 figures worth of free users.
Right. So the potential was there. So that's why you probably didn't want to sell. You saw that if you just figure out how to get these guys to spend some money, you'd be fine.
No, we should have sold. I was a stupid, naive kid.
Okay.
A big corporation who's worth, $100+ billion offers me 6. They can afford 10 million. Because it's just me and my co-founder, so I'm like, I at least want 5 million, so that way we get 5 million each. That was my logic. It was very silly and stupid. Right? I was naive.
Okay. So you said no anyway to this golden opportunity, and then what did you do?
What did I do? I ended up, throughout the years, we've owned Crazy Egg for 5-6 years now. We just kept on growing it. And the turning point for that business was when we removed the free plan, and we just made it paid. Because we were getting thousands and thousands of free signups every month. So when we removed it, we started getting a high percentage of people who were paying for it every month. And then, fast forward a year, we were breaking even. But the moment we went from free to paid and there was no more free plan, we doubled the income within 30 days.
Yeah, right. Now, I'm assuming that the costs of the bandwidth for so many free users would have been high as well.
Our server costs aren't too bad.
Right.
I think right now it's like at $20-30 a month. I could be wrong.
Right, but you don't have the free users now. So, I mean, back when you had all those...
We still have free users because we didn't cut them off.
Oh,
and we
okay.
still have free user accounts that you can find if you search hard enough.
Okay.
I sign up for that, but nonetheless, and we're going back to adding a free plan.
Okay.
But,
so just so people understand, what do people use Crazy Egg for?
They use Crazy Egg to figure out how to make their website more usable. Or a web app more usable.
How?
How? You put a JavaScript on your site, it tracks for people click and where they don't click, and you can figure out what's causing them to, get confused, click on wrong things. For example, if you have a blog and you have images on your blog, you'll notice that a lot of times people click on your images. It'll show you that they think it's a link, but it's actually not a link. So one thing you could end up doing is making it a link. Or you may notice that people aren't clicking in the way that or area that you're looking to click. So you may want to modify the design, test it with the new Crazy Egg version, because you can run a new test and see the differences between the two heat maps to see what are the hot and cold spots. So that way you can get more of the engagements you're looking for versus less of the ones that you're not looking for.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's obviously a valuable service, and I can see why it's taken off so well over the years. Now, when was that launched?
I have no clue.
I remember getting an email from, I don't know who it was. I'm not sure it was you, Neil, just to take a look, because obviously I was writing a blog, or I am writing a blog in that space, and someone got in touch about having a play with it and writing about it. So, but that's a while ago. It must be 4 years ago, maybe.
That could be right. Yeah, it's the service is at least 5-6 years ago. So you're looking somewhere around 2006, 2007 is my guess that we launched it.
Okay. So what happened next? Now, obviously that's gone on to become a successful business. You're still an owner of that, right?
That's correct. Still own it. It grows. There's its own team runs it. But yeah, I would say it grows, more than 100% year over year. So.
Mm-hmm. So do you consider that your biggest success so far?
Financially, it doesn't have the most revenue, but if you look at it from an exit standpoint, if I ever sold it today, it's enough where, my chunk of it is enough where I never had to work again.
Right.
Assuming nothing bad happens, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, take us forward then. You're having success with Crazy Egg, but you do a lot. I remember you're writing your Quick Sprout blog. You seem to still do the odd SEO consulting for big companies like the Cheeseburger Network, TechCrunch.
So a lot of those companies I'm advisors for, like Cheeseburger, so it's just doing it for free and getting stock or shares in the company.
Right.
What ended up happening is when Crazy Egg wasn't breaking even, we actually went to go pitch venture capitalists. Because for me and my co-founder put $500,000 of our own money, and at this time we didn't put $500,000. It was probably between $200,000 and $500,000. We were getting burned out because we were using so much of our own cash. So what we ended up doing is pitching venture capitalists, and they all said no. And the vision we were trying to pitch is to evolve the product into being a much larger company. That company turned into Kissmetrics. Kissmetrics is like Crazy Egg 2.0. And no one would fund us. We probably pitched over 20, 30 VCs, and they're like, look, your business is like an auto shop. You go in once, you fine-tune it, do a heat map once, and then you never use it again. But that's actually incorrect, right? The lifetime value of a customer and user base shows that people actually do multiple tests, and they'll pay for it on a regular basis instead of using it just like as an oil change every 3,000 or 5,000 miles. So we pitched the VCs. That didn't work. We ran Crazy Egg a bit more. And sooner or later, my buddy's like, hey, if you're interested in raising money for this bigger vision, let me know. So he spun out Kissmetrics into its own company. At that time, it had no name. Because what we found out is we had a really hard time pitching the vision when it was, you could see Crazy Egg, right? Because they're like, oh, where's the hockey stick growth and yada, yada, yada. And they were looking at that data versus looking at this vision that we were trying to pitch. So we said, hey, let's cut Crazy Egg out and let's keep Crazy Egg its own separate company. Let's create a new company that is what Kissmetrics does. That was our vision for Crazy Egg 2.0. But we're just like, let's just create a new company. And we pitched that, and we were able to raise venture capital for it.
Okay, what did you pitch exactly? What was the difference there?
The difference was this Crazy Egg helps you, make your site more usable. Kissmetrics helps you make more money from your website. So instead of focusing on the design aspect, Kissmetrics focuses on improving your lifetime value of your customer, improving your revenue, improving your conversion rates, similar to Crazy Egg, which also helps you improve conversion rates. But this also helps you reduce your churn rates, right? So think of Google Analytics. Google will tell you your page views and visitors and what's causing it to go up or down. Kissmetrics focuses on your revenue, and it tells you what's causing it to go up or down.
Okay, so that was a more interesting pitch to VC firms.
It was, and we were able to raise, in total, we've raised like $4 million for it.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been growing that. We have a pretty big team, somewhere between 20 and 30 people. But it's been growing fast. Quarter over quarter, we've been beating our expectations and our numbers, or at least meeting them. But yeah, that's where my focus is today, right? I've been doing that for exactly 4 years now, which means Crazy Egg must be at least 6 years old.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I've been doing exactly 4 years now. I think like 4 years and 1 month.
And what's your personal role nowadays, Neil, for all of this? Like, what do you do each day?
So, don't work really on Crazy Egg anymore. I may spend an hour a week on that max. I pretty much spend all of my time on Kissmetrics, and I'm pretty much the VP of marketing there. Mm-hmm. But I barely do any marketing stuff there, even though that's my title. I spend all my time, dealing with legal, finance, sales, and some marketing. So more of the revenue-related stuff on figuring out how we can make more revenue for the business.
Okay, so you've sort of had 2 home runs here with Crazy Egg and Kissmetrics, and they're both software-based.
Yeah, Kiss is doing well. It's not done yet, right? For me, even Crazy Egg, I don't consider it a home run until it's sold.
Fair enough, but by most people's standards, you've got 2 successful going concerns here, which, like you said, Crazy Egg, if it's sold, you'd be, set for life, and Kissmetrics is on the same path. And that's very different to, say, your first business, which was, the more SEO consulting, not software-based. Could you maybe summarize, like there's a lot of transitions that goes on. You've gone from, I guess, doing a sales role and an SEO role early on in your career to building a business sort of role, being a founder, raising capital, building a team, all those sorts of things. What's the key difference? Like, how can you make that leap? And what do you think really went well with Crazy Egg and Kissmetrics, and what are the pitfalls?
Yeah, so there really is no how do you make the leap. You just go out there and do it. If you want to create a big business, you got to surround yourself with people, and people that are smarter than you. Because at the end of the day, you can't do everything yourself. There's just not enough hours in the day. So instead of focusing on the small things yourselves, you got to start focusing on hiring great people. As a founder of a business, well, I was taught early on, if the only thing you do is hire exceptionally great people to do all the tasks and everything else in the business, you've done your job as a founder. Because if you can hire an awesome CTO and people under him, an awesome VP of sales, an awesome CFO, and so forth, so on, your company is very likely to succeed, assuming you got a decent product.
So how do you do that?
You go out there and you spend your time networking and building up your brand. Because if you build up your brand, it's easier to hire good, talented people versus if you don't have a brand.
Right. So these people, they know about Neil Patel and they know about Crazy Egg, so they want to work for Kissmetrics because of that.
Exactly. And that's why I blog on QuickSprout, right? I love giving back to the community, but it also helps me with my brand, which helps me recruit better talent. And helps me recruit better talent at lower costs because people want to work for me versus me paying on market rates, which you can't really afford as a startup. Because even if your startup's printing cash, you're not printing the same amount of cash a Microsoft or a Google is, so you can never afford to compete with them salary-wise.
Interesting. Okay, so good people. Now, you're obviously located, are you still in Orange County, living now?
I moved a few years ago to Seattle, Washington. So it's the more northern side of the United States. But that's where I've been living for the last almost 3.5 years now.
Rainy Seattle?
Rainy Seattle.
So what's the startup scene like there? Is that where you've been basically growing? It's decent.
It's not great. My startups, they're all based in San Francisco, California, so I end up flying a lot.
Okay.
I picked Seattle for random reasons that aren't even related to the community, but I do love the community there, and they are great people.
Now, one of the things I've noticed about you, Neil, is your ability to be, I guess, a thought leader in your space. You do seem to be on top of lots of parts of the internet, the social space, the SEO space, the startup scene. Like you've raised your profile in that space, but you also maintain a really strong knowledge and awareness of what's going on. How do you do that? Is that a networking thing, or just do you spend all day sitting on your computer reading about other companies and playing with tools and software?
Great team around me who shares a lot of information. My co-founder shares a lot of information with me. I read a lot, and I also work like 70 to 80 hours a week, which helps.
Okay, so it's just hard work and the people around you.
Yeah, I don't really have a life, right? Other than work. Like people look at it like, oh, if you make money, life is easier. Not really. The more money you make, you actually find yourself working more hours, right? So
Right.
it's not the other way around.
And why do you do it then?
I enjoy it. I don't know what else I would be doing. Like if you give me $100 million today, nothing would change in my life, right? I may have, a bit nicer clothes and a nicer home. Well, probably would even still get a car because I don't drive. But nonetheless, nothing would really change. I'll still be working all those hours.
Right, so you're doing it for the love of the work, not for the money.
Yeah, and it's what I know how to do, right? I would make a terrible 9 to 5 employee. I can't wake up and go into work and have someone tell me what to do. Like, I would suck at that.
So, what are the plans then for the future? Like, how old are you now, Neil? Like, you can't be that old if you were 16, 17 just a few years ago.
I'm old now. I'm 27.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're over the hill. So.
I'm over the. I'm like, I would say I got another good, 15, 20 years in me before I'm done.
Okay, so what do you want to do in those 15, 20 years? What's the bigger plan?
I would probably say I would focus more on the nonprofit sector. So I've done a lot in the nonprofit sector over the last 2-3 years, but I would focus more on it than anything else.
Okay. All right, Neil. Well, I think we've covered most of your story, so let's start wrapping up the interview. I normally ask a question at the end of these, but I'm gonna be completely selfish here and ask a question I'm interested in, but I'm sure a lot of people listening will be interested in too, because this is where I'm struggling with in my startup. So we can make this a consulting call. I get some free consulting time with you. Thank you. We're struggling with software development. We're doing a software startup as well in the advertising space, and we're just struggling with I have a technical co-founder and a designer co-founder, and they're basically doing all the technical work, and we're looking for software development teams at the same time as growing the business, and I'm looking for capital and doing those sort of founder CEO kind of roles. And we struggle to, for example, we were looking for new hires to develop software, some new tech talent, but doing that process kind of halved our productivity because we had to spend all this time hiring or looking for people and setting up systems so we could collaborate and build a team. And we realized we're actually going slower than our intention to speed up. So could you maybe give me advice, and anyone listening to this call, when you're looking to build a team, especially in a technical software-driven company, during the early stages, how do you manage the need to work on the software as well as hire the team and find good people? I know networking was the answer to the part of that question, but we're struggling with logistics.
So networking, blogging, what you do, and the other thing is just go out there and start reaching out, right? So I'd reach out to friends, other people I know in the space, saying, hey, do you know of any good engineers or contractors or whoever I can hire, or designers? I'd also start posting ads for jobs like on places like Craigslist. I would also go out there and hunt for all the other businesses that I like and find out who did their design and development work and try to poach those people. But the real trick is to actually not hire too many people at the early stages. Because if you have too big of a team, things take longer, right?
Right.
The communication, distance barrier, assuming they're not all in one central location, having a lot of heads and training people and making sure everyone's on the same page. It takes much longer to get something launched when you have a ton of people versus having a really small team, getting something out there, and expanding the team as revenue expands.
So would you recommend like a team of 2 developers or something like that to start with?
1 or 2 developers, right? You can even get 1 developer and 1 designer, and you can do the business stuff yourself and call it a day and try to get things out. But worst case, I wouldn't do more than 2 developers for something that's medium or somewhat simple, and then later on you can expand from there. Right? It's all about the lean startup.
Exactly. Yeah. Was that the story for Crazy Egg? I know Kissmetrics, you probably started with a slightly larger team because you had the venture funding, right?
Yeah. Kissmetrics, we started with a much larger team, but we had a lot more cash. And when you're a venture startup, you got to burn the money quick. You can't take $4 million and hold on to $4 million for 5 years. You're not doing justice to the investors because that means you're not growing fast enough. But that was a story with Crazy. We were able to build Crazy with 1 developer.
Okay, fantastic. So you must have had a great A player.
Yeah, one great developer and one awesome designer.
Okay, well, that's encouraging, Neil. That's what we have, so fingers crossed. Okay,
Yeah,
go ahead.
focus on creating something that's very minimal, get feedback from it, keep on iterating until you actually get product market fit, and then go out there and start releasing your product and market it.
Yeah, we are having a bit of a problem with the product market fit. I think is definitely a challenge. We're doing quite a little pivots here and there to figure out where the sweet spot is. So
there you go. You got all the knowledge,
the lingo.
Lingo down, terminology, and you know what to do. So you're on the right path.
Awesome, thank you.
It's a software company that most people don't realize. You got to really give it 3 years before it starts making decent money. Yeah, you can start making good money, in the short run, but after the 3-year point, you'll actually start seeing you're going to be making much more money than you don't. And for that reason, it's always attractive to go out there and find software businesses that haven't hit 3 years and only been around for like a year or two and just buy them up.
Actually, I've noticed, I looked at your Crunchbase profile, and you're certainly listing as an advisor and investor in a few companies now. You're becoming quite active. Is that something that just interests you, or are you just meeting friends and you want to help them?
It interests me. I always like making money on my money because it's like I don't really believe in buying big homes that you're not going to use when you're, living by yourself. I have a 1-bedroom condo. So it's like, what else do you do with your money, right? And I end up investing it all. But that's typically based on businesses that I see and like versus trying to buy out a company, right? So I do 2 aspects. One is investing in entrepreneurs and startups and ideas that I like, and I've done almost 30 of them, I think, to date. And then the other approach is we buy software companies out that we like, right? Like Crazy Egg recently bought HelloBar.com. And I don't think we actually even released that information. But
we just did.
Yeah, I just did. So, but we've owned that, for a decent amount of time now, although we haven't announced it even to the HelloBar users.
Oh, right.
But so we'll do stuff like that we feel, we can take in our hands and grow and start adding value to it.
Because I see whitepages.com, PaperPost, Dockster, Cheeseburger. These are all advisor companies for you.
That's correct. Very few of my investments are listed out on online.
Right. But Molar Geek, is this your latest? It's the most recent entry in your Crunchbase profile. Is that something new?
I don't even think that was me. I don't even know what Molar Geek is.
Okay, well, they seem to think you're the CEO of it. So
awesome.
Okay.
I learn something new about myself every day.
Yeah, well, that's the problem when you build a profile, right? Everyone's talking about you. So
that's correct.
All right, Neil. Well, thank you for giving us a breakdown of each of the steps. There's so much we could go into for every business there, I'm sure, but I think it's a nice overview of all that you've built so far, and I know you've got a lot more in you. I think, 27, it's not that old. So, I hope you have a lot more success with what you're doing, and hopefully some point we'll bump into each other over in the States. It'd be probably nice to one day get over to San Francisco and properly get myself in the startup scene. It seems like a fun place to be.
Sounds good. If you're ever in the States, feel free to hit me up.
Now, before I go, websites. We've obviously mentioned Kissmetrics.com, crazyegg.com. So if you're in the, everything, the traffic and conversion and usability space, all those things are answered and monitoring your income streams, right, with Kissmetrics.
Yep.
And then QuickSprout it's a personal blog, isn't it?
That's correct.
So quicksprout.com. And now, do you monetize that? I'm curious. Is that a business or is that just purely a profile builder?
Sure. So it is a business. I have my own personal company called I'm Kind of a Big Deal. And the blog is under that corporation in case someone tries to sue me for some odd reason. But
who would want to sue someone called I'm a Big Deal? I mean...
You'll be shocked. I think I've been through 3 or 4 lawsuits. I don't know how many. But I've been through quite a few over random frivolous things. So, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's just a personal blog, but it does make money because I've sold a traffic system on there, like an ebook, and that's done pretty well over the, 5 months that it's been out.
Oh, fantastic. So you're also an information publisher.
There you go.
All right. Well, you managed to do a lot. So, but 80 hours, you can get a lot done. Neil,
That's right.
Thank you. Appreciate the call. And yeah, good luck in the future.
You too. Take care.
And for everyone listening in, if you want to grab more interviews like this, you can head to my blog, entrepreneurs-journey.com, or just Google my name, the easiest way to find it, Yaro, and you can find lots more podcast interviews just like this one. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.